Good afternoon, I'm Milton Walker with the Midday News. A special welcome if you're watching on onespotmedia.com. The Magisterial Recount for the constituency of St. Catherine Northwest is in its second day at the St. Catherine Parish Court, with attorneys for both political parties observing. The Jamaica Labour Party is challenging the results from the September 3 general election. The People's National Party's Hugh Graham defeated the JLP's candidate Newton Amos by 22 votes. And the magisterial recount for the Westmoreland East constituency also commenced today. Lawyers representing the Jamaica Labour Party filed the application on Tuesday. There was a tie in the constituency following the final count. However, the People's National Party's Luther Buchanan won by 1 vote over the Jamaica Labour Party's Daniel Lawrence after the returning officer cast the deciding vote, according to the law. As the number of COVID-19 cases rise, new procedures to manage the disease are being drafted. Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton and the team at the Ministry of Health said it will affect everything from the reporting procedure to how tests are done and even how recoveries are recorded. Dashan Hendricks tells us more.
2 new deaths, 74 new cases of COVID-19 in the last 24 hours. The overall confirmed cases of the disease now exceeds 3,000, with Jamaica now fully embedded in the community transmission phase of the disease. More than 1,000 of those cases are active.
These are the cases that we know about. There may be persons that we don't know anything about.
Most have an identifiable start date.
Around August 8, 9, there was a sharp increase in cases.
And the number of reported cases each day is expected to remain high, with the reproduction rate of the disease estimated at 2.5. The acting CMO, Dr. Karen Webster-Kerr, explains what that means.
1 person will have 6, and another 5 days, 39 cases. So 1 person to 39 cases in 15 days. That's what it means to have a reproductive rate of about 2.5.
Recently, the health minister said that the current spike could peak in the next 2 to 3 months before it starts going down, and even reiterated that more than 1 million people could get infected. And with that, a change in approach to managing the disease is also being drafted.
As we have been saying in recent weeks, the shift to community transmission also represents a shift in the approach that as a government and indeed as a country we must take to managing the spread of COVID.
He said that the steps are being drafted in consultation with the World Health Organization and the Pan American Health Organization. He didn't outline much of what the new measures will look like, but said it will involve how the government monitors and treats those infected with COVID-19, as well as alleviating the strains on the health services and reducing the social and economic impact of the disease.
So when we speak about the 120 additional medical workers, the 1,000 community health aides, the additional public health inspectors for inspections, it's all a part of preparing the population. The new beds, the expansion in hospitals, or hospital beds, or COVID wards, that's all a part of where the preparation is and the focus is in community transmission.
Changes will also be made in how updates are given on the disease. Dr. Tufton said that the focus will be on managing the spread and less on the number of new cases. A communication strategy for this is also being drafted, and new cases will be reported at 10 a.m. each day, starting today. There will also be changes in how persons are declared COVID-free after testing positive. In the past, 2 consecutive negative tests would declare a person has recovered, but going forward,
once a person has done 14 days and at least 3 of those they don't have symptoms before discharging. So over the next few days, you may see an increase in the number of recoveries as we move forward.
Dashan Hendricks, TVJ News.
Meanwhile, the health minister says new protocols are being drafted to guide businesses how to respond to a positive case among their employees or contractors. The previous guideline was for these establishments to be closed for up to 2 days for deep cleaning and sanitization. Dr. Tufton says draft new protocols now being discussed will settle on a process that does not go to that extreme.
It's not compromising the need for care to be taken to avoid spread, but it is an attempt, and again we're guided, it's not just our position, it's an attempt to maintain normal operation while still being careful on how you manage the potential threat that a positive case may represent or would represent in an entity.
He said the protocols could vary, before adding that it's to avoid a total shutdown of any establishment in which an employee contracts the disease. And with community, 21 people, including 2 women, were arrested yesterday for breaches of the Disaster Risk Management Act during a special operation in Clarendon. An additional 5 men were arrested for illegal gaming. The police say the operation was conducted over 3 hours in several communities in the parish. The 21 people were arrested for not wearing masks in public places. A strong warning this afternoon from outgoing Mayor of Montego Bay, Homer Davis, for citizens to take the necessary precautions against COVID-19. It comes as the country has recorded almost 3,500 cases of the respiratory illness across the island. According to data from the Health Ministry, St. James has 217 confirmed cases with 3 deaths recorded in that parish. They've also had 38 recoveries. But Mr. Davis, who was speaking at his final municipal corporation meeting as mayor yesterday, says residents in the Western Parish must take added precaution due to the current state of the premier health facility in that region, Cornwall Regional Hospital.
So I would say to us here in St. James, adapt to all the best practices of keeping yourself, your family, and members of your community COVID-free. And if we practice, then we can come out stronger and we can prepare to build back our country.
Adhered to. Dr. Phillips Kelly said information from other countries, those measures actually help in controlling the respiratory illness.
Can we all become advocates so that we can keep our numbers down? The fewer we have, the less likely it will be that we'll have complications. Complications with this condition is what is causing the demise of some of our citizens. So I'm imploring that we get on board and all be active participants.
And with community spread, the government says 3 new field hospitals will be constructed to help relieve the burden of a few COVID beds in hospitals.
That we have confirmed the arrival of 1 field hospital in the next week. In the 2 weeks. In the next 2 weeks, we're now building out the base for that facility. It will be located in the corporate area, and that field hospital will allow for an additional 80 plus or so beds. So that is in train as we speak, in collaboration with a bilateral partner.
He said other field hospitals will be built in the center of the island, while the other will be built in the western part of the country. We take a break now on Midday News. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Continuing the news. The government is to provide $50 million worth of tablets for non-PATH students in schools. The additional allotment is being made after several requests from non-PATH students. The announcement was made at a back-to-school webinar recently. Giovanni Dennis reports.
With significant investment toward online teaching in the upcoming academic year, the government is expanding support for needy students. The government is moving to provide 100,000 new tablets for primary and high school students, including students not on its PATH program. Acting Chief Education Officer Dr. Casson Troop says several non-PATH students asked for assistance.
That information was articulated up and it was deliberated on, and the Ministry of Finance responded, and the Ministry of Education was given an additional $50 million to assist with the procurement of tablets and computers for students who are not on PATH and are needy. So we have actually announced that already, and we are providing that resource to our large primary schools.
Dr. Troop says parents who want their child to benefit from the initiative should make the request through their school.
The students who may not be on PATH but are needy, we ask that you parents and our students get in touch with your principals and your teachers to communicate your needs and your concerns. We have committed already to the 50 million, and we are distributing or disbursing the funds to our large primary schools as we speak. These primary schools will now engage our suppliers.
Now, the ministry is also working on a policy for parents who already have tablets or laptops for their children.
We are getting the e-resource app into the App Store. So for those parents who are procuring their own devices, we have prepared the Bring Your Own Device policy, and that will be shared with our schools very shortly, and that will guide you parents into what to procure. The specifications as to what to procure is in that policy, and it is shared with our schools. So get in touch to make sure that whatever you're buying can support the applications, can support the learning activities that are being planned at the school level.
Giovanni Dennis, TVJ News.
And the Education Ministry is also focusing on getting schools physically ready for the new school year. At the same time, focus is being given to school leaders. Dwayne Anderson has that angle.
To run a school is tough in normal times, but now it's an even tougher task altogether because of the COVID-19 pandemic. It is why the Education Ministry says it will be giving some extra attention to school leaders, including principals, to help them cope with the extra stress and anxiety.
This Friday, we will have all our principals and vice principals online, and we will walk them through a psychosocial support session just to take care of themselves and get them at a well space.
The Education Ministry's Region 7, which serves Clarendon, was established 2 months ago to help deal with the growing demands of schooling in a pandemic. The region says it has identified the needs of the schools it serves, and assistance has been provided. This includes recruiting more teachers and repairing the physical infrastructure of some schools.
We would have given schools additional janitors, additional cleaners, and in some respects, additional security personnel to assist with their sanitization plan for their school plans. Also, schools would have received some additional funds to help to purchase wash stations that they would install across the school plant.
School is set to resume on October 5 with what has been labelled a blended approach, meaning students and teachers will engage online as well as in the physical classes on an alternating basis. It is still not clear if the spike in COVID-19 cases, especially over the last 3 weeks, will change these plans. The Ministry of Education in the meantime also outlined plans to provide students on PATH with tablets. The government says it will also buy laptops for PATH students in grades 10 to 13. Distribution of the tablets is expected to start later this month. Dwayne Anderson, TVJ News.
The National Water Commission, the NWC, is reporting that there was a very low response to its incentive program for persons to pay overdue bills to qualify for discounts. NWC President Mark Barnett revealed that the average response rate for residential customers was in the region of 30%. As part of its drive to ramp up collections and clear overdue payments, the National Water Commission instituted the program early this year for residential and commercial customers. The NWC gave a 30% discount to customers in arrears over 90 days if they paid up. But speaking yesterday on Beyond the Headlines, Mr. Barnett said customer reaction did not meet expectations.
Everything ended at the 31st of August. I would say it has been disappointing to some extent. We had just about 10,000 customers who took up the offer. We had somewhere of about 30,000 customers who would have been qualified for that arrangement.
The parish of St. James continues to experience a decline in the number of murders. To date, the parish has recorded 78 murders. Superintendent in charge of the St. James Police, Vernon Ellis, says this is due to efforts by his team to rid the parish of criminal elements.
And a serious campaign targeting some of the parishes most wanted, and the result, we saw most of the top 10 persons either meeting their demise or being captured and are being held in custody.
A man fell from the roof of a house and died in Boscobel, St. Mary yesterday. The deceased is 42-year-old Kenneth Williams, a construction worker from Mango Valley in the parish. Mr. Williams is believed to have fallen from a scaffolding while working on a roof of a house in the area.
Yeah, and I put on the roof, I put on the roof on the house.
And what happened? They heard nothing.
So when me come here, my man tell me about send Japa off up there and dead.
I was down by my house and I saw sugar come and so one of the man drop off of the roof. I get up same time and come up here and I come and see the man lying down, face down in a pool of blood, right at the staircase. We do what we could, call the police. They did not turn up. They tell us to get a vehicle and bring him to the hospital. The lady next door, she checked him pulse and she said she got a little. So we was there still waiting on the police. Then another girl came and checked him pulse and said there's pulse. So what we do, we get a piece of ply, slide it under his side, ease him over on the ply, and we lift it up and put him in the taxi.
Mr. Williams was rushed to hospital, but he was pronounced dead. In sports, West Indies woman seam bowler Shakira Selman says she's working to deliver her best performances on English soil as the Caribbean team continues preparation for its 5-match T20 series. Selman was taken 42 wickets at an average of 26.83 in 78 T20 internationals for the West Indies, says she wants to do her best to help skipper Stephanie Taylor and the team to win the series.
Yeah, being honest, I haven't done as well as I expected to or would have wanted to on my previous outings in England. So I'm really hoping to do really good for the team with new ball takes and early wickets. I've been good against England outside of England, so now I'm hoping to continue that and be good against England here in their home territory.
Selman says the tour of England comes at the perfect time after the COVID-19 had the team out of action for several months.
Girls, we're extremely grateful to ECB for inviting our team over. I think it was detrimental that we have a tour, especially after over 86,000 people attended the World Cup final just a couple of months ago in Australia. And obviously we're not in control of what this pandemic has brought to the world. But I think women's cricket needed this, so it was really good on ECB's behalf to plan this series for women's cricket.
The Caribbean ladies will begin their 5-match T20 series on September 21. And that's the Midday News. I'm Milton Walker. Join us at 7 for primetime news on behalf of the news, sports and production teams. Good afternoon.